Hello and welcome. If you are wondering what Claude skills are and when are they supposed to be used and how can you go about creating them, this is the video for you. In this video, we are going to be exploring what skills are, when to use them, how to make them, and trust me, knowing how to use skills in the right way will supercharge the way you use Claude. So let's get started. So to start with, a brief agenda for our time together. We will first be understanding what skills are. We will then look into the anatomy of a skill document. Then we will quickly jump into a demo of how to create your own skill. And this will be in a format that you can use to create any skill that you want to. And then we will also have a discussion on when do you want to use skills, when to use projects, when to use a single descriptive text. We will see all of those facets. And then we will end with some best practices and some tips on how to make good skills. So stay tuned till the end. So to start with, let's see what exactly are Claude skills. Now, Claude Skills have recently got an update and an upgrade, which have made them like really, really powerful. So, in a nutshell, a skill is basically a reusable instruction package that teaches Claude how to perform a specific complex task in a way that is consistent, that's reliable, and without the user having to re-explain this again and again every time. Now that was a mouthful, and I'm going to kind of break that phrase down into chunks and to help you understand better, right? So skills basically are documents that we add into Claude. Now, what type of documents are they? They are markdown files. So MD, M stands for mark, D stands for down. So skill is a markdown file. Okay, and that particular file has instructions written in it. It's not code, it's in plain English. So skill is an instruction package or an instruction document that we add into Claude. Why do we add it into Claude? Because we want to teach Claude how to do a particular complex task. And what are we teaching Claude again? So we are teaching Claude how to do that particular complex task in a way that is consistent, that's reliable, without the user having to explain things again and again. So skills are especially useful when you want to teach Claude how to do something which you need it to do again and again. So if there is a task that you ask Claude to do repeatedly over time, and if you have to like explain it, saying that hey, you do this in this way, make this modification, make this into this format, better to put that up as a skill. Also, each skill document is task focused, so it's not like a general instruction, but it's a specific task focused. And the third thing to remember is that skills are auto triggered. They can also be manually triggered. So if you once you add a skill in the prompt box, if you write slash and the skill name, it can be manually triggered, but it can also be auto triggered. Now I'll give you an example of that will help you kind of stitch all of this together, right? So let's say that there is a school teacher and she wants to create math worksheets for her students. Now, if she goes to Claude and if she says, create a math worksheet for me for my grade 3 students, Claude will do a good enough job of creating that worksheet. But if she wants to customize it, let's say maybe she wants X number of addition, X number of multiplication problems, X number of math problems, word problems, she wants the school logo on the top ref, she wants the date, she wants this, that. And if she has to kind of customize this, there is a lot of back and forth that is required between the Claude and the teacher. Now imagine this being done for each class every day, and that is like a really lot of back and forth, right? So what the teacher can do in this instance is, because she wants to teach Claude to do a specific task, which is generating a worksheet in a specific, reliable, consistent way, because we want the output to be in a consistent format. What she can now do is she can go and create a skill for generating that worksheet. And after she creates that skill, whenever she types /worksheet or whatever she names it, and gives a little bit of an instruction on which subject to generate the worksheet, this and that, the output of Claude will be consistent based on what she has written in that skill MD file. So in a nutshell, this is what Skills is. It teaches Claude how to do a specific task in a way such that the output of Claude is consistent, is reliable, without the person having to explain the instructions again and again. So now let's see what is that skill document made of, right? So what exactly is in that skills document? So skills, as we saw earlier, is a markdown file. It's a .md file. You have to have a folder. Let's say for continuing this example of worksheet, there'll be a folder. So you have to create a folder called worksheet on your computer. And inside that, you have to create a document called as skill.md. So here is the folder. Here, if you see my skill here, right? So that is the folder name. And inside of that, you will have the skill.md file. Now, you cannot really name it as something else. It has to be skill.md. And inside of the skill, you will have 3 basic sections. One is you will have the name and description of this skill. So it may be, for example, the name of this skill will be worksheet. So worksheet, and a description that tells Claude what this skill is about. So make sure that your descriptions are detailed and they have instructions on when to trigger the skill and what this particular skill does. If you want, you can also have instructions on when not to use this particular skill as well. So now once the name and description sections are done, you will then have to write on the body of the skill, that is the instruction set. So here you will have instructions on what the response should have. So and in our example, we will have instructions on you generate a worksheet with 3 columns, have 10 addition problems, have 10 subtraction problems, then you have a school logo on the top left. So this and that, everything goes into the instruction set in the body section. And if the teacher wants, or if the teacher wants, she can also give references to some existing worksheets that will make it easier for Claude to understand the structure. And if there are some specific assets like the school logo or any fonts or any images, they can also add that in the assets folder in that particular skill folder itself. So please note that all the assets and all the scripts and all that, they are not exactly attached to the skills.md file, but they sit outside of the skills.md file. So all of this will sit in a folder, and once Claude understands that it needs to trigger that particular skill, Claude will then go ahead and fetch the instruction set. It will fetch the scripts, the assets, and everything. So this is not like something that is preloaded into Claude. Only when Claude feels that this is the right time to invoke this particular skill, it will then go ahead and start pulling in all those scripts and assets. Alrighty. Again, something important here, right? So let's say that you are like a super Claude user and you have like hundreds of skills. Will it slow down Claude? Probably not, because there's something called as progressive disclosure here. What that means is that everything that you add into the skill, the instructions, the scripts, the assets, the images, so on and so forth, they are not loaded into Claude for every chat. Based on the user's query, Claude will first scan through the skill name and description of all the skills that are there. If it finds that we call this the metadata, right? So it first scans the metadata and understands if that particular skill needs to be triggered. When it says that, when it feels that the skills need to be triggered, then it goes ahead and pulls in the skills.md, the body, the instruction set of the skill. And once it pulls in that body, and then as and when we are referencing that particular assets or whatever is mentioned in the instruction set, it then pulls in the bundle resources into the chat and into the context. So it's a progressive disclosure, and it helps keeps things lean. It helps Claude not reduce its efficiency and its speed. The next thing is so in this section we are going to understand how we are going to create a skill. And don't worry, we don't really have to write all of these from scratch. I'm going to show you how to use Claude to create a skill document for us. And then we will also see a demo of how to bundle all of this in a folder and how to upload it to Claude. Now comes the fun part where we are going to explore how we can create our own skills and add those skills in a super easy way into Claude. So what we're going to do now is open up Claude. I'm on the free plan, and currently skills are available for you to create and use on the free plan. So on the left hand side panel, go into the customize section, which is a small suitcase type icon. And then if you click on that, you will have a card that says create new skills. Now once you click on this card, you will see a bunch of skills that are available for you by default. Now these are not turned on. If you want to maybe turn on a particular skill, you have to click on that and toggle this button here, which will turn it on for you. If you want, you can also create your own skill. So I have created 2 skills for myself, and I'm going to try creating the 3rd skill. So what I'm going to do is if you want to create a new skill, you have to click on this particular plus icon, and you have 3 options for you to create your own skill. You can create with Claude, you can write your own instruction set, or you can upload a skill. What we're going to do now is we are going to see how we can use Claude itself to generate the skills.md file, and I'm going to show you the quote-unquote hard way of uploading a skill. Using these 2, you can also create skills easily, but hey, why not? Just let's upload a skill. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up a new chat, and I'm going to ask Claude to help me create a skill.md file in a log of my days. So this is what this skill does, and I'm going to paste this prompt in the description box for you to try it on as well. Alrighty, so now Claude has finished creating the skill.md file, and I will give you a little bit intro into, or at least a little bit deep dive into what has happened. So it has read its own skill creator skill, and now it has so once that is fired up for itself, now it is creating the digital journal skill.md file for me. And once it has created that particular file, now it is testing that skill by itself, just to make sure that everything runs well. And now once the tests are passed and it feels that it is a good thing, now it has created a skill.md file for me, and it's telling me that I have to paste it in a digital journal folder like so. And then let's see what the skill.md file is. So this is my skill.md file, and it will have a name, which is the digital journal. It will have a description which will tell Claude when to fire this particular skill. And then after that, we will have a detailed instruction set of what this skill should do, what the response should be like, what it should do, what it should not do, some examples that it can give, and then maybe it will even have some general principles to follow, and also a good description of edge cases, what to do and what to not do. So this is like a very good description of skill. Now what I'm going to do is either I can, let's say, download this particular skill.md file and put it in my folder, or I can directly copy this to your skills. If you want, you can click on this. It's an easy way. But and if you want, you can also download this, put it into a digital a folder called as digital journal, and then zip that particular digital journal folder. And that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to go and download this particular file. And then once it is downloaded, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to okay, so what I have done now is I have created a folder called as digital journal, and inside that folder I have pasted the skills.md file, and then I have zipped up that particular folder, and now I'm going to upload that particular zip. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go into, let's say, documents, and this is the folder in which I have pasted my skills.md file, and then I have zipped this particular folder into digital journals.zip, and I am now going to say open. So now it is going to upload this particular skill, and it is called as digital journal. Now everything looks good, so let's go ahead and test this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to Claude, and if I say slash, I can go to skills, and I can see that my skill is right here ready for me to use. I'm just going to say log and entry. Now based on the time of the day, it has to ask me different questions. See, now it has fired up this digital journal skill. Okay, now it's asking me what time it is, and now based on this particular time, it is giving me a few questions that I can answer. It's also, after I give the answers, it's also going to help me wind down for the day, maybe give me an inspirational or motivational quote, and then maybe even help me prep for the day tomorrow. So this is how you can build skills. Now here are some tips to help you understand when to use a skill and when to not use a skill. And there's something else called as a project in Claude, which is kind of similar. You can give instructions on top of a project as well. And I will help you understand what both of these are. So first, you use a skill when you have to perform a task that is repeated, and which is like a multi-step workflow. So a task that is repeatable and a multi-step workflow, then you go ahead and create a skill. If it requires specialized knowledge, like say for example, if you want to invoke some other tools, that's a good idea to create a skill then. If Claude keeps getting something wrong again and again, it's a good thing maybe to add a skill around that, so you don't have to explain it again and again. If you want consistent outputs every time, think of worksheets. Then maybe create a skill. If you have to explain to Claude something that is like too long and too descriptive, it's better to put it into a skill document. And you don't really have to batch something into a skill when it's a one-time unique request, or if Claude is already doing it well without any additional changes. Or if the task is like simple enough to explain it in one sentence, you can just type it and you don't need a skill. And if there is no consistency required between the outputs, at that time also the skills are not necessarily required. So basically, now speaking about projects, right? In Claude, you can group a bunch of chats together and put it in a folder called as projects. Now think of projects as folders, and which house one or more chats. Now you can give instructions on top of a project as well. So let's say that you're a freelancer and you work for different clients. So in this case, each of these clients can be a project or a folder. And you can give instructions on top of a folder saying that, hey, you can reference this client's branding and theming. This is the document. You can reference their maybe their address if you want to create invoices, this and that. So these are limited to folders, and those may not really be applicable to the other chats that you will have with Claude. So in those instances where you are limiting your instruction set to a group of chats or to a particular use case, better to use a folder and create it. So think of skills as a tool in your pocket, right? So you create a skill once and it follows you everywhere across chats. So if you want something that is specific, that is localized, think of creating a folder. But if you want to use something across chats universally, then create a skill. The next thing that we will look at is how does actually Claude know when to trigger this skill, right? The first thing, it always starts with a conversation. So users first sends a message, like for example, make me a Word document. Then Claude in the backend, it reads all the available skills that their user has added into Claude. So and it does not read the entirety of the skills document. It just reads the name and the description. And this is why we have to make the name and the description easily understandable, so that Claude can pull it and trigger it whenever we ask for it. Next, if the description matches, then Claude decides the relevance. Like, is it like really relevant? Do I have to pull out the skill? And when it is relevant enough, then it loads the skill.ml, and then the instruction sets enter into the context of that chat. Okay, so the next thing that we will look at is some of the best practices to keep in mind when you are creating skills. So always make sure that the skills.md is lean. Target under good 400 to 500 lines. Do not like overdo it. It will just add confusion, and it will also add too much of restriction into Claude, which might deter its output quality. If you have a good mantra to follow is one skill, one job. And if you want to use and think of how you can use progressive disclosure, right? So instead of loading everything at once, put only what Claude needs immediately in skill.md, and rest everything can be added into the assets folder. Again, the fourth one and important one is to test it out before you publish or launch that particular skill, especially if you are putting that skill out into a public domain where anyone can download it. Always a great idea to test it 5-6 times minimum. And also, iteration is the key, right? So over the course of time, when you feel that hey, the skill is good, but it can be better, when you feel that, go ahead and iterate on the description and then retest it again. And also it's a best idea to also include some common pitfalls or mistakes that Claude might do, so that it can avoid doing those. Alrighty, some of the skills that they don't really come pre-filled into the Claude, but it is just a one-step click for us to add these to the Claude is docx, PPT, PDFs, YouTube Ranker, Content Repurposer, Skill Creator. And the next thing that we will look at is a list of takeaways that we have, or at least I hope that you have had from this video, are we have understood that what skills are, how they are basically a reusable expertise for Claude, what exactly are markdown files, what are the different parts of a markdown file, what to include in the MD file versus what to include in the assets, what are some best practices while creating skills, and also the importance of testing and iterating your skills. So I hope this video has been helpful, and until next time, thank you.